Right then, people, we're back inside the building. Welcome back. It's just gone 5 minutes past 9 here. We are live on Trickstar Radio, live from the heart of Brighton, and today we are going international. We are going to be joined by the magnificent Ternion Sound, who join us now on the phone. How are you doing, guys?
Good. What's up?
What's good? First of all, just so people are aware, it's quite crazy timing-wise, obviously, because we are in different sort of time zones. Just so people are aware, what time is it over there?
It's 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
right now.
Amazing. That's what we love to see. I love to hear the commitment, man. It's amazing. Okay, well, obviously, there's a lot for us to talk about here, purely because there's a lot of interesting questions that I'm not necessarily interesting questions, but there's a lot of things I'm finding very, very interesting about what you guys are doing, and obviously the more sort of Americanized sort of style of dubstep, which we've been hearing over here in the UK for the last few years. I want to kind of get a bit of background on yourselves to begin with. How did the Ternion Sound movement first come together? Because obviously there's three of you.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, there are three of us. We all were already trying to pursue DJing and production individually before we formed the Ternion Sound project, and that's how we all met. Actually, is through playing shows, DJing in Minneapolis. That's where we all became familiar with each other, and that was at least we got to become familiar with each other's styles and what we were playing, and I think we were all fans of one another originally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there were a few. I think you and Jack probably had a couple of back-to-backs before the Infrasound one, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because Andrew and Jack actually had written some music together, and I was just I got into the scene a little bit later than they did. So I was a fan at first. I remember seeing Andrew play shows and was like, what is this? This is crazy. This is awesome. I want to do that. So I was already following in their footsteps, so to speak. But then Infrasound rolls around, our favorite festival put together by a lot of people in Minneapolis that we work with quite often. So it feels like our favorite little home festival. And it was 2016. It was a crazy year for Infrasound. They had gone through they switched venues to a larger venue that was farther away, and there was just a whole lot of different variables with the weather. And so it made for this insane weekend of just absolute madness. But somebody, I think it was actually AXH, who could not make it to his set because of the travel issues with the weather. And so one of the stage managers asked Andrew or Jack if they wanted to fill in the time. And then we all just ended up asking each other. They're like, hey, do you want to play too? And so it was the three of us. And we all played at the beach stage at Infra. And we had so much fun playing that set together that it definitely sparked something to... We were like, what if we do something? The three of us.
Oh, this is amazing.
This is way too much fun. And we really want to, try something new for each of us.
Wow, I mean, so just with this then, so this is very much almost it's almost kind of luck that this came together.
Yeah, I don't know if the project would really be a thing if that set did not happen.
Wow, this is crazy, man. So this is almost like the most perfect happy accident you guys could have imagined.
Exactly.
This is crazy, man. This is crazy. Okay, so with that, then, obviously, you've all started then sort of teaming up from here, I assume. Off the back of that set, you've gone, what would happen if we did a project together? So then how do you go from that sort of situation to where you are now, where you are obviously very, very sort of certified in the sound you're making? Talk me through that next bit of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about this for a second. Basically, when we started playing, together more often, we kind of... we were playing a really, really heavy, aggressive sound, as was kind of the dubstep in America at the time. And when we decided to come together and write music, we were talking about it, and we all just kind of felt this desire for a little more freedom and to be a little bit out of the box that we felt that this aggressive kind of sound was putting us in. And it was getting kind of samey. We weren't quite sure we were enjoying the way, kind of this, when the term rhythm was coming up.
Of course.
That style.
Careful with that.
I know. But you know what I mean. So And we all we were just like, well, you know, we're vibing a lot of these like OG tunes, like classic dubstep styles, darker dubstep styles, more spacious, more variety inside of that. And it was kind of like right before we all came back to Minneapolis from being in different places to start writing together, because I feel like it happened like right before like Jack and I came back, right, Eric? Is that true?
Yeah, because it's funny, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that. I hadn't thought about that in quite a while. Just the fact that, Andrew, you had moved to Illinois for a while.
Yeah, I did grad school for 3 years.
Yep, and Jack was in Denver at the time. But because we had, like, had those times together before with music, and once that said it happened, it just, like, planted the seed of, like, something's going to happen with this. And we started planning, and like Andrew was saying, like, kind of formulating talking about the styles that we were into now. And so basically Jack and Andrew ended up moving back to Minneapolis to start forming our studio group, which was a thing for quite a while. But it was like a big personal move for everybody. A little bit easier for me because I was still in Minneapolis. But moving back to work together on this project and really like put a lot of our focus on seeing what we could do.
Amazing, man. I mean, the story's amazing, and you touched quite briefly there on obviously that more sort of American, that sort of what I would call the more sort of Americanized, heavier dubstep sound that the UK I feel kind of sees a lot of the time when you talk about and almost thinks of when you kind of say the phrase American dubstep. With you guys, however, it definitely seems like with that sort of musical freedom, you've been one of the acts that have kind of you've been very much involved in leading the sort of sound away from there. Like, what if you were to kind of describe the American dubstep sound now overall, like what would it be?
Eric, I might give this to you.
Dubstep American sound. I think that now there's so much more of a balanced sound of like 2010 to 2018 was like this massive EDM bubble of like people figuring out for themselves what is dubstep, what does that word mean to them. And of course, there's the classic heads version of like, okay, this came from the UK, came from garage and two-step and drum and bass and all these influences, and these big names like Scream, Benga, Mala, DMZ were influencing this sound heavily and blah blah blah. But the Americans, of course, everybody was pushing this super heavy sound, and it was like I always found a lot of crossover between people who listened to like metal music growing up and then people who like fell into dubstep after they discovered it. But currently it feels like the sound has taken a lot more of influence from that actual UK sound of like the classic minimal OG styles of dubstep. So it feels like there's so much more of that type of sound, and people really pushing that. Few people that come to mind as like big influencers in that respect. I don't like using that word because it makes you sound like cringy, like influencer, Instagram, but influencer with, influential, we'll say. Widler for sure has been pushing. I think he's easily like one of the top American DJ producers. He's got the biggest tours of anybody in the US in the scene, and people gravitate to this guy and his sound. It's like he plays so much like reggae influence, definitely dubby stuff.
Well, you know how I know that's true, because I was literally on a show here 2 days ago, and I played 4 Widler tunes that were all dub influenced. So I can completely agree off the back of that.
Yeah, so it feels like people are being pulled a lot more towards that sound now, and it feels like a lot of the rhythm stuff has kind of gotten so oversaturated that people are more bored with that, and so they're kind of looking for new and more exciting things.
Definitely, man. I can definitely see that, and it's really interesting hearing the way you describe it all and how it kind of just seeing the sort of seeing the opinions and seeing the kind of the vision from the other side, from across the pond, as they say, is quite an interesting one, and it was one of the reasons I was really keen to get you on this morning. What we're going to do next, we're going to jump into a track from yourselves entitled Top Tier. Give me one word to describe this tune before we get into it.
One word for Top Tier. Sound design, that's not one word. With
a hyphen.
A whole bunch of hyphens.
Okay, we'll go with that. We'll go sound design with a hyphen. I'll give you that one. We're going to get into this one now. It's just gone 9:15 here on Trickstar Radio. We're live inside the building. Ternion Sound are on the phone, so don't go anywhere. Keep it locked. It's Breakfast with COVID. Oh, yes.
With CubCamTV.
Trickstar Radio.